It's been a busy week down in Benidorm, Spain. We've seen two eventful semifinals, and we now have our 8 finalists. One of them will be representing Spain at the Eurovision Song Contest in Liverpool, so let's talk about who that might be. Unlike most selections where the point totals aren't revealed until after the final, in Benidorm Fest we actually see them during the show. So we have a better idea of who is most likely to win Benidorm Fest in the end than we would otherwise. The first semi-final was won by Agoné, who was going into this already as a fan favorite, and he won by quite a large margin over the other qualifiers who were actually quite close in the total points. And I think that it's pretty clear to see why that happened when you look at all of the performances. His was really the most well-rounded, I have to say. The others seem to have problems in some way or another, whether it was vocals or staging or a combination of both. Agoné is known as a pretty strong vocalist, and he definitely delivered that night. It was one of the best vocal performances that we had. And I think that the concept for the staging was pretty good. It was more or less what I was expecting. I do think that there are certain weaknesses of it though. In the original review that I did, I mentioned that I wanted to see shadows and colors, and while we definitely got that, it still feels quite plain, I think. Of course, that might be a limitation of this stage, and if this does get chosen to go to Eurovision, there would be opportunities to build upon that. I also feel like the energy of the camera and the overall movement when it comes to the movement of lights and the choreography didn't quite live up to the energy of the song, and I think that that would need to be brought up a bit more. Again, it could be a technical limitation, but something that's a little bit snappier I think could definitely help elevate this song. Overall, he delivered, and I think that his victory was well earned. But when it comes to the final, he's got stiff competition. Our semi-final 2 winner was returning artist Blanca Paloma, and holy fuck. Holy fuck. You know that feeling when you have high expectations for something, and then when you actually get to seeing your expectations be met, they're exceeded so much that your mind is blown? That was me. Estoy completamente enamorada. There isn't a single thing about this performance that I can say that isn't overwhelmingly positive. The performance, the visuals, the overall otherworldly feel of it, it was perfect. So now I'm 100% team Blanca Paloma. And I know that it's not guaranteed because we have to see how the songs from semifinal 1 and semifinal 2 rank against one another. And there are certainly others that I could be happy with winning, but in my mind, se acabó. It's over. Se acabó. Going into the show, my choice for winners were Fusa Nocta or Alice Wonder. It seems that a lot of people have been not pleased with how their performances went, and some even say that they shouldn't have qualified, which I don't particularly agree with, but let's talk about each of them. For Fusa, unfortunately, the vocals were rough. There's no way around it. It was not a good vocal performance, but I still do think that the rest of it made up for it in some capacity. The song itself is really unique, and it's clearly the strongest aspect of the entire package. Some people had issues with the staging. I thought it was quite creative, and I liked that it had this story that they were telling. I felt like the biggest issues were just the lighting and cameras, kind of similar to Agoné, but in this case, it was just less dynamic. I think that it's because the song was such a favorite that people are being maybe a bit overly critical, because when I watched it the second time, I actually didn't feel quite as badly as I did the first time. Really, the biggest issue is the vocals, and I don't think that they're going to improve in a way to make a difference in the final, so it's pretty safe to say that this is out of the running. Alice also had some issues with her vocals, not quite as much as Fusa, but even though it had its flaws, I still feel like there was something captivating about the way that she was singing, about the emotion that she was putting into it. Visually speaking, I thought it was quite tasteful. I think the opening sequence just up until the backing singers come in was very well done. Where it started to fall apart for me was when she moves to the B stage. It just felt like it didn't really add anything to the overall aesthetic. But it was saved when she moved into the position for the very last shot. I thought that was the perfect way to end it, and it saved it a bit. Of course, I would say the same about her being out of contention for the win at this point. I just feel like the more well-rounded performances that we've seen are going to be a bit untouchable. Speaking of, let's talk about one of those well-rounded performances that didn't actually win the semifinal. Vico was one of the artists that I didn't mention in my original review of the Benidorm Fest songs. A number of you rightly pointed out that Vico had taken over Fusa's lead that that she originally had in the streaming charts. And so for that reason, her qualification isn't a big surprise. I guess the question that I had was whether or not the track was going to be one of those songs that kind of works better on a streaming platform versus a televised contest. But in this case, it was totally earned. Like, she really brought the fun and the party atmosphere that a lot of those more typical pop songs that were left in the semifinals failed to do. While it seems unlikely that the voting would change enough in the final for her to take the lead over Blanca, for example, let's say that if Blanca does win, I could actually see this getting second and Agone coming third. Another well-rounded performance that has made it to the final against certain expectations is Carmento, and I am so happy about this. And it got second in the televote, which is fantastic. I really do think that audiences can respond to these kinds of performances that are not trying to be the flashiest or the most modern. Ultimately, she was in her element, and I think that authenticity is a huge selling point. With regards to the other finalists and those that came very close to qualifying, in semifinal 2, I felt as if it was going to come down to Jose or Alfred. With Jose, I think that it was overall a good performance, but I wasn't really sure if he was going to make it through because the parts in the chorus where he vocalizes, like, he wasn't always getting the notes and it just didn't come through as well as it did on the studio track. And Alfred had a staging idea that was quite conceptual, and I actually really respect it, but I just don't think it worked that well on screen. And I think really between the two of them, Jose qualified because it was just simpler. Lastly, we have Megara, who are coming into this selection with no competition. There weren't any other songs that this could be compared to. Some people seem to think that this song should have won the first semifinal, or at least done better than some of the other qualifiers. And in that case, I don't really agree. I think that ultimately the sound of the song is quite niche, and it's not the type of song that would win over a very large audience, at least not as much as some of the other songs that we've seen. But I think they succeeded at what they set out to do, which was to bring a colorful performance that fits the industrial sound of their song. And like Carmento, I think it's that authenticity to who they are and what they bring that works so well. In both semifinals, the difference in points between the lowest qualifier and the highest non-qualifier was very small. It was 3 or 4 points. The artist who ended up just losing out to qualification was Aritz, and he was both hyped as the possible next Chanel, the male version of Chanel, but then also a bit villainized for some offhand comments he made in interviews about other competitors. And then it was also revealed that he was the top choice of the selection jury when they were choosing the songs for Benidorm Fest. So there were a lot of reasons for him to be both liked and disliked. I think it's worth noting that he had a pretty effective performance, I would say, and the simplicity of it actually helped it feel very tasteful. But I think that both the professional jury and the demoscopic jury picked up on what the problem was, which was that it was a dance performance much more than it was a musical performance. For that reason, I can't complain too much about it not advancing to the final. And overall, I'm very happy with our finalists. Out of the 7 songs in the First Impressions video, 6 are in the final, so naturally I'd be pretty happy about that. And one of them has the chance at representing Spain. As things stand right now, it's Blanca Paloma for me, and I want to share with you what Danny from Eurovox told me, who is from Spain, and why he wants this song over others. He wants to send something that no other country can send, and I personally think, especially after seeing it live, that this is it. This is a high-quality, artistic, and entrancing performance. I really think it could do very well at Eurovision, and this appearing at this point is, I think, the Chanel moment that we had last year that has made up for some of the problems that we've seen with Benidorm Fest, which is a conversation for another video. But those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments what you think and who you want to represent Spain at the Eurovision Song Contest 2023. And if you haven't done so already, I'd love if you subscribe to the channel so that we can keep talking about other selections that are coming up. Best of luck to our 8 finalists. Thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you on the next video. Hasta pronto.